What if you were asked to fight for freedom, but then told you couldn't be free yourself? Hi there, I'm Chris with a K, and welcome back to This Week in Queer History, where we celebrate queer moments and icons that I wish I had known about as a young gay kid growing up in conservative America. Today, we're time traveling back to the 1940s, and we're turning a spotlight on the queer service members of World War II. Yeah, long before Don't Ask, Don't Tell even had a name, there were gay, lesbian, bisexual, and gender non-conforming people putting on uniforms, picking up rifles, decoding enemy messages, and patching up wounded, and they were doing it all with a little more flair. And let's be clear, they weren't fighting for queer liberation, they were fighting for survival, both for the world and for themselves. Let's get into it.
This week in queer history, stories told with love and glee.
So who are we talking about here? We're talking about thousands of LGBTQ people who served, officially and unofficially, in the US and Allied military forces during World War II. We're looking at from 1939 to 1945. And at this time, military policy, it banned homosexuality. Queer folks enlisted anyway still. Some were drafted, some volunteered, and many hid their identities in plain sight to serve their country. They worked as medics, translators, nurses, cryptologists, pilots, codebreakers, infantry soldiers, and more. But their real battles were twofold. One against fascism abroad, and another against systematic discrimination at home. So let's zoom in. At the time, homosexuality was considered a mental illness. Military doctors were trained to screen out sexual deviance. One actual question on the psych eval was, do you like flowers? Seriously? You couldn't like flowers and be in the military? Poor straight guys. And yet the system had holes. Tons of them. Some LGBTQ folks slipped through by lying, others just flew under the radar, and many were simply overlooked, especially when bodies were needed fast. And once inside the system, well, things got complicated. Some queer soldiers found unexpected freedom. For the first time, they were out of their small towns, surrounded by other people like them. Same-sex intimacy, though taboo, was sometimes quietly tolerated as long as it didn't cause a scandal. Women in the Women's Army Corps formed close romantic friendships. Sailors on battleships formed bonds that blurred the lines. It wasn't a queer utopia, but it was a taste of connection. One gay veteran, Tom Reddy from the US Marine Corps, reflected, "We felt liberated once we had discovered our own secret. We were gay." But there were also high stakes. Queer service members faced blackmail, dishonorable discharge, and even prison. The military's blue discharge policy, yes, they literally printed it on blue paper, was designed to quietly get rid of undesirables, including gay and lesbian troops. These discharges weren't just humiliating. They stripped veterans of benefits, made it harder to get jobs, and effectively erased their service. And yet, they still served. Some, like British codebreaker Alan Turing, helped turn the tide of war by cracking the German Enigma code, only to be persecuted by his own government after the war for being gay. Others, like Christine Jorgensen, served in the US Army and later became the first American to undergo gender confirmation surgery, opening up conversations about gender identity for decades to come. W. Dore Legg used his GI Bill after the war to earn a degree and co-found One magazine, one of the first pro-gay publications in the US, which would also open the door for gay publications when it went before the Supreme Court. Chuck Rowland and Harry Hay, both veterans, co-founded the Mattachine Society, one of the first sustained gay rights groups in America. Hay had actually been discharged for being suspected of homosexuality, but he turned that rejection into fuel for activism. And then there's Irvin Bernstein, a transportation corps vet who received a blue discharge, effectively erasing his service. He didn't go quietly, though. He wrote a moving manuscript about his experience, which was discovered decades later and became a rare first-person account of queer military life in the 40s. I've added a link above and in the description below if you want to read it. Frank Kameny, an astronomer who served during World War II, was later fired from a government job for being gay. But he sued the US government all the way to the Supreme Court, and his bold activism earned him a place as one of the fathers of the American gay rights movement. And we can't talk about queer queer service without acknowledging the stories that still haven't been fully told, especially those service members who were Black, Indigenous, or people of color. Due to segregation and racism, many Black queer troops served in silence, their identities erased twice over. We know they were there, in the supply units, in the kitchens, in the airfields, and on the front lines. These stories, they're powerful and heartbreaking and resilient, and they remind us that queer people weren't just bystanders to history, they were helping shape it, even when the world was telling them to disappear. Let's make this personal. During World War II, one gay soldier, Gilbert Bradley, wrote letters to a secret lover, G, who would later be discovered to be Gordon. These letters were coded, secret, and full of longing. One letter reads, "There's nothing more than I desire in life but to have you with me constantly. I can see, or I imagine I can see, what your mother and father's reaction would be. The rest of the world have no conception of what our love is. They do not know that it is love." Honest, raw, and full of hope. This would make an incredible movie. Hinted, someone get on it. There were also safe havens, whispers of gay bars in port cities, informal networks in barracks, a wink and a nod for relationships that help people survive. These weren't just hookups, although let's be honest, some of them obviously they were. But these were moments of truth in a world that demanded silence. As a gay man who grew up in a conservative town, I can't help but think about how those soldiers must have felt, risking their lives for a country that didn't want to acknowledge their existence. No gay bars, no pride parades, no social media shouting, "Live out and proud," just folded up feelings, hidden glances, and a daily dance between honor and hiding. And yet their service mattered, their presence mattered. Even in silence, they made change. After the war, many queer veterans returned home, changed. Some went back into the closet, others found the courage to live more openly, and some helped lay the groundwork for what would eventually become the LGBTQ rights movement. And with time and people standing up, the military started listening. It took 70 years, but it happened. In 2010, Don't Ask, Don't Tell was repealed. And in 2017, the US Army finally officially recognized the service of gay and lesbian veterans who had been dishonorably discharged during World War II and beyond. And there was a point up until this year that transgender individuals could serve openly. It breaks my heart to see the progress we have achieved slip backwards. If we allow discrimination and fear to pull us back to a time when being queer in the military meant hiding, I don't think our community will go back and serve. And if queer people are not a part of the military, we all will suffer. Gay, straight, doesn't matter what your sexuality is, we need a strong military. I mean, imagine if Alan Turing had said no and did not serve. Imagine how much longer the war would have gone on. So the next time that someone says there weren't any gay people back then, you can tell them, "Oh, sweetie, bless your heart. We were there. We've always been there. In the trenches, in the code rooms, in the flight decks, and in the letters. Even when the world tried to write us out, we found ways to write ourselves back in." To every queer veteran, past and present, thank you. And if you're watching this today from some small town or place that doesn't quite accept you as you are, know this: you are a hero. You are a member of queer heroes that have changed our lives. So thank you. Thanks for joining me as we celebrated queer veterans from World War II. If you enjoyed this video, please drop a comment below, give it a thumbs up, and make sure to subscribe to the channel so you never miss an episode. And if you want to discover the queer events and icons that happened on your birthday, check out myqueerbirthday.com. Link is down in the description below. Until next time, stay strong, stay bold, and keep making history.